Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my AM reading video for Friday, February 5th, 2021. Definitely on a Saturday, as has been my custom these past few months, and in fact, I'm filming pretty late on Saturday this time, so I'm just hoping I can get it all uploaded and so forth before the day is out. My reasoning for that is that I just finished listening to this book on audio from the library, if you can see it through the iPod. It is Dark Tides by Philippa Gregory, which I put on my anticipated reads list halfway through 2020 and finally got to it. It is the sequel to her novel Tidelands. I believe Philippa Gregory is known mostly for writing about the Tudors, kings and queens and that sort of thing. But this historical fiction follows more common people. Specifically, we're following this one family. We started following them in Tidelands, and then Dark Tides jumps about 20 years. So I think the rest of the series will continue to jump like that so that we won't be sticking exactly with the same set of characters, but in actuality, the characters in this novel were largely the same as the first novel. It's just they're 20 years older, and they find themselves in slightly different circumstances, a lot of it based on the activities of the first book, but it's interesting to see how the characters change and don't change. And anyway, since we are in a 20-year future timeline, I guess I can vaguely drop a plot and it won't spoil too much. There's a couple different timelines, in fact. This novel takes place around 1670 and 1671, largely in London, and also with some side plots in Venice and also in the New World in New England in a small town called Hatley. One of the main characters, Ned, ends up going to New England to be a part of this town. He is a man who is anti-royalist, and in this period of English history, King Charles II has returned to the throne after a coup that had killed his father before. And Ned doesn't want to live under a king. He wants to be a free man on free land, and that's how he kind of sees the new world as fulfilling that somewhat utopian dream. That being said, his storyline largely has to do with his interaction with his own village, but also in growing close to the Native American inhabitants who are nearby. So he gets to see the truth that it's not quite so easy as going to, uninhabited land and just going, do, we're our own people in our own land now. And I like this storyline. It wasn't really the main storyline, but I feel like, especially for modern readers, I guess it gives us a lot to think about in terms of how history unraveled, where we are now, but what really was happening then. And I think that it was nice for the character, too. It offered some character growth in a way, because part of his anti-royalist sentiment was that he felt very fulfilled in his faith for the most part, like, staunchly believing in his mission, and then meeting the Native Americans helped him to question a few things about, who they are as European settlers and what they're doing there. So I thought that plot worked well. The major plot with the rest of his family still in Europe, it was really compelling, really fun, but I feel like especially near the end it was more melodrama than anything, or, soap opera unfurling with a bunch of, dun-dun-dun reveals sort of thing. But it was still really, really fun. It involves a youngish woman, 30-something woman, who is an Italian dowager who was married to one of the main characters who was a young boy in Tidelands and is now, a young man. She comes to stay with his family in London, saying that he drowned, but she is quite a conniving character in her own right with her own agenda. It also follows a lord, actually, who interacted with the family in the first book and comes back into their lives in the second book in ways that he didn't quite expect. But in a way, with these characters, it kind of feels like they're kind of treading old ground even as they somewhat grow and change. I think it is a book that actually you can read on its own. You don't have to have read Tidelands to enjoy Dark Tides. I mean, Gregory gives enough sort of background information as needed to like tell you how some of these characters who were connected in the last book are connected in this one. But otherwise, the plot really moves forward and is its own thing in this book. And I can only imagine what the next book will bring, and I'm not even sure exactly who we would be following. Maybe someone who is most directly connected to Eleanor, who was the main character of the last book, and kind of, sort of, I wouldn't say she was a main character in this one, but, you know, she was in the center of a lot of things. And I gotta say, one of the things I don't like so much about this series is that she has the sight, and is kind of perfect, practically perfect in every way. But she's still, you know, a good person, a stalwart person, so, you know, fun to root for. Meanwhile, it's a fun story all around her. Speaking of historical fiction, another book I'm in the middle of is this one. This is Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. I picked up this book because it was near the top of my Goodreads TBR that I put on way back in 2016. I'm also excited to be reading it now because Gyasi's second book, Transcendent Kingdom, is on the BookTube Prize long list. It's being read for the octafinals right now, and I'm excited that if and when I hopefully get to that book, I'll have had her first one under my wing. I'll have finished it by then. So this is historical fiction, somewhat similar, except Philippa Gregory is, I think, creating a series of books that takes us through the life of a family, and Gyasi does it all just in one book. She starts in the 1700s in what is now Ghana. She takes two half-siblings who, you know, are African women. One of them marries one of the British soldiers who was in the slave trade, and another one is one of the people who is trading into slavery. These women don't know each other, but Gyasi takes us through their lives and the lives of their descendants for, I believe, 8 generations, although I'm currently halfway in the book right now. So we follow their lives and their exploits in Ghana and in the United States. And I'm liking it. You know, I think the writing is strong. It obviously has an inborn dramatic core to it because these characters are living through harrowing events. Even the characters in Ghana are living through the slave trade and through war with tribes and with the British and that sort of thing. And of course the African American characters are living through systemic racism, starting with slavery and moving from there. But I feel like Gyasi's writing is strong. I feel like each new chapter, you know, takes us, you know, into the next generation, and she just sort of gets us into a small slice of life story with the family members of this next generation and what they're going through in a personal way as well as, you know, a broader way. And I'm struck, you know, by the difference, the major difference I feel, or the tragic difference in a way, between the African American and the Ghanaian family lines is, of course, the African American family line is severed repeatedly because of slavery, so that each generation perhaps barely knows anything about the generation that came before, much less, you know, generations before that. Whereas the Ghanaian family, although things, you know, shift and change and people only know so much about each other, I think so far the character Effia, who is the first woman who was married to the British soldier, she still comes up, you know, as a figure in the lives of her descendants so far. Who knows, maybe it won't last, you know, once her life is far removed from memory, but it does feel like a major thing is that at least some things can continue. And some things are continuing in the African American line. There's all the characters seem to know, to some extent at least, they come from the Ivory Coast and know something about the tribes who live there. So at least some things get to be cast down, but it's less personal in a way, like, you know, you have less of a familial connection. So that's just something that's currently sticking out to me, but I will be finishing this up soon, and I will check back next week with my thoughts. I guess I'll also say here, maybe I should have said earlier, that I'm only talking about books that I've read in February for this Friday Reads, and my January literary newsletter I will link down below, which includes snippets of the Goodreads reviews that I wrote for the 8 books I've read for January, and also literary news that caught my fancy, a book pick, a book meme, all that good stuff. But staying in the present and the future now, next on my docket is this audiobook, which might not be showing up now on my iPod. This is FAIREST by Meredith Talusan. A brief summary, as I understand it, is that this is a memoir that has to do with immigration in recent times to America, and also touches upon the fact that the memoirist is dealing with gender identity issues. But that's all I will be saying here, because I am reading this for the BookTube Prize officially as a judge in the Octafinals for Nonfiction Group F. I did a whole sort of introductory preliminary video about judging this round a few weeks ago. I'll link that video down below. So that about covers it for me now. I will also link to other BookTube Prize information down below, because no matter what, it seems like in almost every video I have to talk about it. It's like it's a cult. Oh, but I love it. Meanwhile, I think I'll be back here next on this channel to do a page 112 tag, because I have so much fun doing this tag where I pick 3 random books from my physical shelves and read page 112 from them to decide on a new book to be reading this month. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.